Hi everyone, welcome to BRICS Briefs. We have a breaking live show for you today with Dr. Shah on the recent Truth Social post by the USA President-elect Donald Trump. Dr. Shah, welcome. Namaste.
Namaste.
I really appreciate you coming on such short notice, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so there's been a recent post by the USA President-elect Donald Trump, and it's about BRICS. So we're going to cover it. And again, thanks for coming on short notice. So let me bring it up, and we'll show everyone. And look, I'll read it for those who are only listening to this and those who may not be aware of the news yet. So, quote, "The idea that the BRICS countries are trying to move away from the dollar while we stand by and watch is over.
Oh.
We require a commitment from these countries that they will neither create a new BRICS currency nor back any other currency to replace the mighty US dollar, or they will face 100% tariffs and should expect to say goodbye to selling into the wonderful US economy. They can go find another sucker. There is no chance that the BRICS will replace the US dollar in international trade, and any country that tries should wave goodbye to America." End quote. So there it is. I'll leave that up there, but let me just ask you, Dr. Shah.
Yeah.
We've titled this show, "Trump Threatens 100% Tariffs on BRICS Nations." And the question is this the end of a common currency? I'm being a little bit facetious, but what would you say?
So, first of all, we got to understand about this narrative about a BRICS common currency. Okay. Now, do understand that in the last 400 years, what we were having, a pound and dollar, were a single country reserve currency. Okay. Now, at this moment, none of the four powers, when I say four powers, I say Russia, India, China, and US. At this moment, none of the four powers are in a position to make their currency as the single country reserve currency. It's just not possible. So none of the four economies can take the burden of what you call as, is there a problem with the voice?
A little bit, but it's I can hear you, so it's all good. I've increased it a little bit, so go ahead.
Yeah. So none of the four economies are in a position to run a single country reserve currency status. So that question is, out of the consideration that any single country can run that show of a single country reserve currency. Not even the US is in a position to run the dollar as a single country reserve currency status. Okay. Now, when President Trump says a common BRICS currency, now do understand that the BRICS nations are not making a single country reserve currency. They are making a multi-currency basket. Now, the puzzle here is that the BRICS nations are not naming the basket as the BRICS currency. Okay, that is a tricky part. So you don't know who exactly are you going to sanction. Are you going to sanction all of them? How do you exist in this world by sanctioning all the BRICS plus nations? So that's just not possible. It's just not possible. Okay. So very smartly, the BRICS nations did not even name the currency as a BRICS currency. They didn't name the basket. They continue to de-dollarize with their individual national currencies and did not make any common BRICS currency at all. Now, if you club the entire basket, you can make and churn out a single BRICS currency. But that is not the strategy which the BRICS nations have adopted. Because right now we have you started with 5 core members. Now you have 10 core members in the BRICS. Okay, you have 13 new members which are added as partner country model. Okay. So, all there is going to be multiple currencies which are continuously going to come in. Some might exit, as you as well know, that Saudi Arabia has still not officially accepted the core membership position, despite the approval. Okay, so you never know in this entire basket. There could be multiple currencies coming in. There could be some currencies which might exit as well, any point in time, because this is a truly democratic currency framework. Okay. So this is not like a single country reserve currency world that the BRICS wanted to create. Because if that was the case, then China would have pushed yuan to replace the dollar. It's the fact that the Chinese learned that they cannot take the burden of a single country reserve currency, which is exactly why they are also pushing the BRICS. Okay. So we are not going to go back to a unipolar world order. So what President Trump is saying about a common BRICS currency that anyways is not in the works because the basket is never, at least for a foreseeable future, I don't think they are going to name the basket as a BRICS currency. They are going to keep it multi-currency basket with easy entry and exit for any nation that they want to join or exit. Okay. So I don't understand what exactly he wants to target here. But if if at all he means that he's going to target all the BRICS nations, I don't know how they are going to operate international trade in that scenario. Are
Mm.
they to say that they are going to become a closed economy like Kim Jong Un of North Korea? Are they trying to say that? Uh, I am not sure that is how the American economy could be run. Okay. Second thing, what he says, if you can pull out the tweet on the screen.
Yep. There we go.
Yeah. Or back any other currency to replace the mighty US dollar. So nobody is backing a single currency at all. So we don't know if he wants to, take action on all the BRICS plus nations. Plus, what he's saying is that he's going to slap 100% tariff. Now, do understand, Clive, that in economics, when you say that you are going to slap tariffs on imports, what you are trying to do is make the goods costly for your own citizens.
Mm.
Okay. This tariffs, ultimately the consumer has to pay this charges, whatever it's not the company which is going to bear this cost. Okay. So do understand that when he says 100% tariffs, it also means that the BRICS plus nations which are looking forward to de-dollarize, they are actually aiming at appreciating their own currencies. So if their own currencies are appreciated, they are actually not looking for selling. They are actually looking for buying stuff from the West with an appreciated currency. So whether you announce a tariff or you don't announce a tariff, it doesn't make any difference because the countries don't want to sell. They want to buy from the US. That is what
Mm.
exactly de-dollarization means. So say today you have Chinese yuan, and say you are going to slap a 100% tariff on a Chinese yuan, which is already appreciated because of de-dollarization. I don't think US is in any position to buy anyways from China with an appreciated yuan, right? So what is the point of declaring a tariff? So I don't understand what exactly he means by this tweet. Maybe he has to check with the economists that who are giving him inputs because it just sounds
Right.
counterproductive. Because one, the Americans who are habituated to buying cheaper imports from the foreign nations, you're trying to burden them with 100% tariff. And two, the countries who wants to sell to US are wanting to appreciate their currencies and in fact buy from US. So the tariff anyways does not make any sense. So this just looks like a gimmick to attract views. Other than that, I don't think this makes any sense. Other thing, what he's saying is the country should wave goodbye to America. So that is exactly what he's trying to do, making it a closed economy. In which case, a lot of lot of decoupling is going to happen with China, which we already know is a process of de-dollarization. And second is it means a lot of IT services contracts which are given to Indian companies. Those companies will lose some contracts. That is what it means. Which in which any case, if the rupee appreciates, those contracts were anyways going to get reduced, right? So I think he is totally aligned with the de-dollarization process, because if the currency printing if the currency printing was possible like it used to happen before, then they don't need to cut the government expenditure, which is exactly what Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk are up to. They are clearly saying that we are going to cut down 2 trillion from the 6 trillion government expenditure, because now we cannot afford this kind of wastages. So that clearly is de-dollarization. I mean that process itself is de-dollarization, right? Because if you had dollar in the reserve currency status, why would you cut down the expenditure? You could simply print the dollars and pay for the expenditure, right? So I think everybody is aligned on the correct path. Even the BRICS plus nations are clearly saying that we want to appreciate our currencies and we would rather like to buy instead of sell from the West. I think it's going in that direction. But
Mm.
the question here is how instantly President Trump is going to take these abrupt decisions. Because understand, the beginning of manufacturing at home is not an easy task. Basically, you are saying that I'm going to pollute my country, I'm going to abuse my labor, I'm going to use my natural resources, and I'm going to make in US product at a price point which Americans can afford, which means you are saying that you are going to depreciate dollar and salaries by 60%. That is exactly what you are saying. So if this is the path which he has taken, I think nobody has any objection from the BRICS nations with respect to devaluation of the US dollar. This is exactly what the BRICS plus nations are saying, that why don't you also manufacture and make some real goods instead of printing currency and buying from us? So I think everybody's aligned as far as this process is concerned, but it's not an easy process. Setting up
Mm.
manufacturing and supply chains would at least take, if not at least this decade, it will take for the US economy to set up everything.
Right. Yeah. I actually wanted to bring this up, and I'm glad we've got you on short notice because on this tariffs, and I'm going to, we have a collaborator who's written an article on this post.
Mhm.
But, you know, when I've imported things from the USA in the past, and when I imported it, I had to pay any taxes or anything or levies when I imported it. And so when
Mhm.
I went to sell it, I would need to manage how much I sold it for my margin. Um, if I got the product if I imported it very cheap, which is what's happening because they're using cheap labor in other countries, and
Mhm.
then they're selling it. It's not very expensive, but they are
Mhm.
selling it at a very high profit. Don't you think that Trump knows that? And he's thinking, well, these guys can just afford to squeeze their margins, right? Because the end consumer in America is, if they can't afford it, they're not going to buy that product. And so the importer's not going to, he's going to have to lower his price. He's going to have to keep the same price. But do you think what I'm saying, does that make sense? Do you think Trump's thinking that? Or, yeah.
I think he's gotten multiple sources of inputs on economics, which is why I think this tweet does not make much of a sense other than saying that he's aligned on the de-dollarization process.
Mm,
The tweet actually means that he wants to de-dollarize, because when he says that he's going to attack a replacement currency, there is no replacement currency coming up from the BRICS,
no.
because it's a multi-currency basket which they have not even named as a BRICS currency. So, who exactly are you going to target, right? If you talk about what the Indian foreign minister replied when he was asked on this, Jaishankar, He's very clear. He said we are going to trade in US dollar for countries who want to trade in US dollar, and we are going to trade with other currencies where the countries want to trade in other currencies. So the BRICS nations never had any problem with trading in US dollar with the US.
Mm.
The BRICS nations are only saying, if I'm going to trade with my neighbor, why the US dollar has to come in between? That is what the BRICS nations are saying. The BRICS nations are not targeting the dollar. They are just saying, for the local trade in and around my region, I can trade in my local currencies. Why would I go for the US dollar? And I think it makes plenty of sense to say so. So I think President Trump has come, and that shows that after the oath, he's going to take some abrupt decisions, particularly on immigration as well. And he's going to cut down a massive chunk of bureaucracy and media, layoffs and stuff like that. And it looks like that he wants to halt the international trade until the team is able to figure out what exactly that they want to do going ahead. Because see, a made in US product or a made in Canada product is not so easy to set up. Um, you don't have the skill set, you don't have the price point to give to offer to the American citizens. With a, I mean, you can't compete with the Chinese pricing. It's just not possible. So where exactly are you going to source the products from? You can't all of a sudden. It's not like a magic that you come up with a manufacturing industry all of a sudden. Okay. So I do understand that he's going to go for a full-on decoupling, de-dollarization with the Chinese economy, but I don't think he can target all the countries at once, all the BRICS plus nations. It's just not possible. Okay. Even if he wants to say, for example, he lifts the sanctions on the Russian economy, say, for example, okay, then Russia is not going to simply start manufacturing and pass on goods to the United States, right? That's not going to happen all of a sudden. So, in any case, it looks like the team is confused on how they are going to handle this economic stuff, because there are multiple voices coming in. There's a huge chunk in the US which believes that decentralized cryptos is the way to go forward in terms of currency for a de-dollarizing purpose. And then there is a big chunk within the administration which believes that only central bank should be allowed to regulate the currencies. So certainly we are hopeful that it they are going to de-dollarize with Bitcoin and cryptos, and then start regulating it and make it into a digital dollar. I think that is the more sensible way forward, rather than taking an abrupt decision and saying that that there's a sudden demonetization of the currency without even people navigating towards a crypto or an electronic entry or a digital dollar. So let the population, in my understanding, let the population move towards a private crypto first. Um, Once a sizable chunk goes over there, then maybe you can demonetize the dollar notes, and then you can start regulating the private cryptos and turn it into a digital dollar. I think that is a more stable and a phase wise process to do the de-dollarization process, rather than going in an abrupt way, like anyone talking anything from the administration. I think the administration needs to reduce down its rhetoric, and the X and the social media post. This doesn't look like a decent method of running a government, because I'm seeing a lot of posts from Elon Musk as well, coming in from Vivek Ramaswamy as well. It almost looks like they're running from the X platform.
Mm.
I mean, the government cannot run from the X platform, right? Asking people's views, and that's not how you run a government. You have to have a calculated team who's going to decipher what each step is going to bring as an outcome, work on it, evolve it in a better way, and then announce some decision, rather than going in an abrupt way. Because you're seeing Elon Musk promoting his Doge coin, then there are altcoins, and then there are stable coins, and there are bitcoins, and um, you know and then Goldman Sachs all of a sudden comes out and says, no, no, put all this aside, go for gold. So I think let them first decide what exactly they want to do, because this is not something which they can go about by running on an X platform. It might look good for the vote bank, temporary, but it is not a good long-term stable strategy to run any administration. I mean, I'm seeing some prominent handles asking views of X accounts on who should be what designation, and then selecting from there and stuff like that. So it looks very weird and a very strange way of selecting people for governance. It's not a structured way or a structured, planned way of organizing things, and this will fall out, and it will fall out in a very bad shape when it does. And then there will be a whole, a scene of doing a blame game on each other, and it looks quite messy if this is the way they go about, because you started picking people by what the popular opinion on X platform is, and all of these are high-headed people, hot-headed people who blabber out things any way they want. That's when all this many cooks join the kitchen, you know what's going to happen with the food, right?
Not going to
So, and
taste good.
citizens, the
Yeah.
American citizens are going to be the food at the
Mm.
end of the day.
I actually remember this in his first administration. It was like this because he had so much difficulty getting his
Team
bureaucrats to
members.
do what he wanted to do
Yeah.
and communicate too. And he had a lot of problems. So it doesn't really surprise me. Look, Dr. Shah, we've got a lot of comments because we've got a live show. And maybe I'll let the producer pick out, because he's got a little bit more time, to pick out if there's some good questions. But I want to bring up this. So from one of our contributors, Megas Alexandros, um, he's actually written
Mhm.
this article about the post, and he's
So
put here, and I want to
this is
get
very
your opinion.
logical, Clive.
Mm,
Let me tell you, this is very logical. I mean, you can take the title.
yeah,
Just scroll up and yeah. So do
yeah,
understand that when US dollar became the reserve currency status, it was United States which collected all the gold in the Second World War by doing supplies to the European allies. Okay. The BRICS plus nations are not making a single country reserve currency. So
mm,
all the central banks have collected gold in tiny amounts to do the financial reset. Okay. So we are not making a single country reserve currency. So a common BRICS currency is a scenario, easy scenario when it is a single country reserve currency. That is not going to be the case because we are moving towards a multipolar world. We don't want the unipolar imposition of ideas of a single country forced upon all the members, which is
mm,
exactly why we are not going for a common BRICS currency. Okay. Now, another form of common BRICS currency is if you name the basket as the BRICS currency. But I don't think the BRICS nations are right now ready to call the basket as a BRICS currency because they are clearly figuring it out that in the next summit there are maybe 10 more members which are going to join. Okay. So
mm.
why will they name the basket as of now? Because there are going to be multiple currencies going to be added to the basket. So it's like a fluid basket of currencies. So I don't think in the near future they are going to name the basket as the BRICS currency.
No, they've said that. Vladimir Putin has said we're not doing a currency. Ramaphosa from South Africa said we're not doing a currency. I mean, it's been made pretty clear. So it's
Yep.
interesting, which is what I think Megas Alexandros has sort of put here. He said this post by Trump is a masterpiece of political propaganda. This is because one stone he kills not two, but three birds. And I just want to get your opinion on this. He says, and I'm reading this for the audience that is listening only too.
Yeah.
So he's got 3 points. These are the three birds, right? He says, it does the people of BRICS Plus a favor, since a common currency,
Mhm.
in the worst case scenario, will put
Yep.
them in the cage of fixed exchange rates. I don't necessarily
Mhm.
agree with that because fixed exchange rates would be good for development, borrowing for development to be stable. Um, And as you just said, we are not doing a common currency. That's been
No,
made pretty clear. But go ahead
but
on
they
that first.
can name the basket if they wish. They could name the basket as BRICS currency, but they are not naming it because understand, Clive, uh, the bigger nations have no problem de-dollarizing openly. It is the small nations which want to join BRICS Plus, and the BRICS members will have to understand, and they do understand that if these small nations want to join the grouping, you have to make it more comfortable for them to join the grouping. So you are not going to say that we are attacking the dollar. You are going to say we are promoting our currencies. It's just
Yeah.
a language difference, but that provides a lot of comfort for the new small countries to join the grouping. So I think it's a wise decision from the BRICS grouping to say it that way.
Yeah, and they've been pretty clear about it. There's just been a lot of propaganda in alternative media and mainstream media. So the second one, he says he is happy with Western propaganda, and especially with those in his country who are still convinced that the USA has enormous advantages, excluding the exchange rate, from the dollar's status as a world reserve. That's
Mhm.
interesting.
Because see, that's true, Clive. Because what this tweet from Donald Trump has done is he has, in the sense, persuaded the Western citizens to believe that they have some kind of an upper hand.
Mm.
Because not everyone is economically so sharp to understand that he's actually getting aligned with the de-dollarization process. Okay, so the tweet does sound like a cheat code for the BRICS Plus saying, okay, you go ahead, and it's like a kind of a chocolate being handed over to the Western citizens. Oh, you
Yeah,
also can have your chocolate.
that sounds like Trump. Very personable in that way.
He's smart. He is smart. Yeah.
Oh, well, he is. He is smart. He's a businessman, which I don't agree with as far as, having a political figure as a businessman. But we're talking about the USA. So it's a different culture, different history, different system. But anyway, the third one, Megas Alexandros says he places it. So this is the third bird that this post is taking, right? So he places himself exempt from future criticism from that part of a public opinion that still today supports the need to maintain sanctions against Russia when he removes them as soon as he takes office.
Mhm.
Mm,
Because this tweet makes a case for saying, hey, we need to remove the sanctions so that people start trusting the dollar. Okay. By the
yeah.
way, Russia has never opposed the dollar in the sense all the BRICS Plus nations, I'm repeating again, all the BRICS Plus nations have no issue trading in US dollar with the US.
Mm,
The only problem we have is why do we use dollar while trading with our neighbors? Okay. So I think the third pointer is very correct that this places Trump in a position where he can remove the sanctions from Russia and still be a good guy by saying, hey, the
mm.
past policy was a mistake. We did a mistake by weaponizing the dollar, and now I'm the one who's rectifying it. That does sound a good bargain for the American citizens to believe that something great is going to happen with this process.
Yeah, very reminiscent of 2016. Oh, okay, we've got a question from a cat down in, I'm not sure where that is. Sorry. Now, due to US sanctions, China has no way to develop trade with Russia, which is bad news for both China and Russia.
Mhm. So do understand that the Chinese trade with Russia is booming, and there is absolutely no problem because they are trading in barter and they are also trading with local currencies with each other. So it doesn't matter, irrespective of President Trump, the relations between the two countries and the trade is going smooth.
Mm, yeah. I, you know, wanted to bring this up because it's very important, I think. Can the intent we read from this Truth Social post by Trump be a leverage for the Ukraine settlement?
That is for sure, Clive,
Mm,
because Ukraine is a conflict which is, I believe, as soon as the election results came, I was the first one I put it out saying that it's going to close. because understand they do not have the money. Understand the process of de-dollarization means they can no more now do the endless printing of dollars. So if they cannot do endless printing of dollars, they cannot pass on the money to Ukraine like they used to. Okay.
Mm,
So it is very clear that they do not have any more extra money for the Ukraine conflict. Okay. Their focus is going to be Iran, Israel, the mess that is in the West Asian region, and they might be keen to some supplies to Taiwan for its self-defense. That's all. They don't have extra money for stretching the Ukraine conflict anymore. So it's just a matter of some of the weeks or few months until the Trump administration starts involving with Russia directly or indirectly and causes a ceasefire on this. It's very clear
o-
this conflict cannot go on.
yeah. Okay. Sorry, that last comment was actually from one of our collaborators, Dudu Cat. So you may see if you're subscribed to our Substack, you'll notice him. It's Dudu Cat. So I apologize. I don't read Chinese, so it's hard. Um, but I've got another, because this is, I think this is hinting at, and I suspect, I just want to get your thoughts, Dr. Shah. Could Trump be hinting at a starting point for a new Bretton Woods agreement?
Well, Clive, one thing is very clear that the discussion is about the mountain of US debt which has accumulated over a period of time. So, if you notice what Elon Musk has been writing and President Trump been writing for the last 6 months on their social media, they are continuously repeating the word that we are bankrupt now. We are bankrupt. So it is very clear that a financial reset is what they are looking forward to. So we already know that the BRICS plus nations are de-dollarizing by accumulating gold. The Western nations are de-dollarizing by private cryptos and Bitcoin stuff. Okay, because if they also de-dollarize with gold, then there will be a massive chaos on the American streets. People would start lining up at the banks, submit their dollars, and ask for gold. They don't want that. So they are using private cryptos to de-dollarize as of now. So once President Trump takes office, this process is going to intensify, which means more and more dollars are going to go towards cryptos. And once entire chunk of money gets accumulated in cryptos, a big chunk, they can demonetize the physical dollar notes and then start regulating the crypto and make it a digital dollar to complete the reset. Okay. So certainly the reset process is coming soon after the crisis.
Mm, okay. Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of that, especially from Catherine Austin Fitz. She's been talking about that. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her. She was
No.
a lady who's very experienced in the USA. She was actually in charge of the
Mhm.
housing department. She controlled a lot of money. She's been talking a lot lately about there was stolen money, etc. And she's talked about the Bitcoin reserve and how they're going to use that to with the reset and asset movements and stuff. So I would encourage your audience to look her up. The Solari Report, it's called. Um, but I'm mentioning that, Dr. Shah, just to say what you're saying is that is what's happening. That is the direction, definitely. Yeah. Um, well, I've got, unless the producer wants to put up any more questions or comments from the audience, we'll finish up with your final thoughts, Dr. Shah. So just give
Yeah.
them a few seconds. If there's anything else, because and I really appreciate the audience. There's a lot of different comments, and we're trying to keep it fairly short. Um,
Mhm.
but of course, you can always go into the comments and look. When people go back and watch the video, they will see your comments and they can think about them too. Um, uh, yeah, they're no questions. They're just commenting. Okay, so people will see those comments, and you can think about that and make comments under the video if you like. So, Dr. Shah, go ahead with your final thoughts.
Well, I think the coming of President Trump in the US immediately after he takes oath, you can expect abrupt decisions coming in, especially for China in terms of decoupling. More than that, the worry here is about if they are going to go about with the speed of cutting out $2 trillion of government expenditure from the 6 trillion odd that they spend in the government. If they go about doing that in the speed which they are claiming on the social media platforms, I think it's going to become pretty difficult for the midterm elections that will come after 2 years for President Trump. Because if the dollar is not devalued, along with cutting out that heavy government expenditure, then there will be crowds which will be protesting on streets with that massive cut of government expenditure. Because understand, the federal government is the largest employer in the United States, the largest employer. In fact, if you jot down the chart of last from 2019 to 2024, total number of new US jobs that came into the market, about 40% was directly the federal government jobs. And
Wow.
the Trump team is saying that we are going to cut down the jobs given by the largest employer. Okay. So this looks like a chaos. And if they lose the midterm elections 2 years down the line, what that means is the next 2 years, President Trump will have to just sit like a duck without any power. He won't be able to do anything if that happens. So I think it's going to be very tricky for the Department of Government Efficiency, which this Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy has created. But if they are successful by devaluing the dollar along with cutting down that expenditure and balancing out everything, then 2 years down the line, at least the world might see some possibility of stability in international trade after the reset is over. Because it is pretty clear that most of the world is moving towards a digital currency at the end of this decade.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Shah. Really appreciate you coming again on short notice. Namaste. I'll end off the show here. So thank you very much. All right. Thank you for watching this episode of BRICS Brief, this breaking live episode. Please show your support for the show by voting it up and sharing it with your network. We really want to get your feedback via the comment section. And I really appreciate that you've commented during the show. I wish we had more time. We could show your comments more, and we will try and do that. If you have something to contribute, please don't be shy. Go for it in the comments. If you subscribe to our channel, you'll have easy access to future programs, and you can choose to be notified by email if that's convenient for you. Below this video in the description are options to support our work financially. We appreciate any donations. So, namaste.